Hi there, folks. I'm here with my good friend, I better get the pronunciation right, Fabrizio Piccareta. How does that go for a Chuchter Highland accent?
That was quite correct, Fabrizio Piccareta, but I know it's difficult for English or Scottish, especially for Scottish, to pronounce my. It's difficult also for Italian to pronounce my surname.
Oh, it's great to see you again, Fab. And we've known each other for a few years now on the pro license, and I really enjoyed getting to know you on that. And that's what I would like to talk about probably in this little interview is, your approach to the game and your approach to people, because I really kind of thought you had quite a deep, thoughtful approach to the game and also to people as well. Who really can influence you as a player or when you were growing up? Where did that come from, that kind of?
Yeah, thanks. First, I'm happy to be here with you, and it's good because it reminds me of my time in Scotland. So I'm always happy. Look, when I was a young player, of course, I was influenced by players who played in the first team where I was a young player in Sampdoria. I grown up in Sampdoria Academy. So all the players that year by year were passing by the first team, in a way they influenced me. But I remember when I was 17, 18, I had the chance to train with the first team. And at the time, there was a top player like Liam Brady, the Irish player.
Yeah.
And I was a midfielder, so he was a midfielder. And I remember I used to look at him like a role model, And so as a young player, he was the one who influenced me the most. When I grown up and I was 25, 26, or even 30, I remember I didn't really have someone who inspired me until I remember I looked at a young Pep Guardiola playing for Barcelona. So before to appreciate him as a manager, as a coach, I remember I was fascinated by him as a player because I used to play center midfielder, and I've been always fascinated by his way to keep things simple on the field. He never touched the ball. He never kept the ball that long. Always playing two touches, one touch, and for me it was an eye opener because in that specific position, usually in those years, midfielders used to keep the ball too long in their feet. And when you see a player like him and that he knew already before where to play the ball, where to the weight to put on his pass was fantastic. And it didn't surprise me when he became a fantastic coach because you could see he has the football in his brain. And so I think that these two players were probably the players that influenced me the most as a player.
Yeah. And I think that's fascinating as well because you can see from those two players, like Liam Brady, very elegant, isn't it? Very elegant on the ball and had such a range of passing as well. And for Pep as a player, you're seeing that 1 and 2 touch because it's interesting, isn't it? Because traditionally, how things have changed, where a centre midfield player, maybe you'd be picturing someone, as you said, either being on it a bit more or driving, the game from midfield, isn't it?
I remember, for example, in the old times, usually centre midfield players used to go and take the ball and steal the ball, almost stealing the ball from centre back's feet, if you remember.
Yeah.
Like you say, now give the ball to I take the ball and I'm building the play. Guardiola did something completely different. He was always available for his teammates, but he never he never really wanted the ball in terms of go and pick the ball from his teammates' feet. He was just available, always scanning and watching beforehand what he should do if he received the ball. So that was a great change in that position. And then after him, other players started to do the same, like Sergio Busquets. While if you think players like Xavi are more similar to Liam Brady, so keep the ball, drive the ball all around the field. So top players, different ways to interpret the position. Fantastic.
Do you think, as a coach now, and I know you're at Roma, head coach of the 17s, I think, do you see the game developing now? Do you see a concrete development of how the game is played from them?
Yes, definitely. I think in the last 5-6 years, the game has changed drastically, especially this year with this new rule. I'm talking about the possibility to get the ball inside the box, start in the build-up. This has made a big difference in the way all the teams play. I mean, all the teams that want to play from the back, because it's not just a small detail. If you can think that as a player you can drop inside the box to get the ball from the goalkeeper, while before you should wait outside the box, and so this changed the way the opponents can press, and then change the strategy of the build-up for the team in possession and the pressing for the team in non-possession. So this has changed a lot. And also, but the big differences, in my opinion, and this is what I like to bring every day in my daily job, is that roles and positions are not anymore that important like they were in the past. So I don't really think in terms of 4-4-2, 4-3-3. Nowadays, football has become more fluid, more liquid, if you like the word. So what I'm trying to teach to my players is to try and occupy the space in the right moment at the right time, no matter if you are a left back or a center back or a midfielder. And if there is one thing that is very clear in my team, the team that I coach, is this. So you can see players moving all around the field in a coherent way, in the right way, but maybe you can spot players in different positions during the game, and this is, I think, what the top teams are doing at the moment.
I find that fascinating, Father, isn't it? Because I once heard, isn't it? There's echoes now of Holland in the 70s and the total football. And I always remember hearing I can't remember who said it, one of the Argentinian players, and Holland were playing them. And this was early 70s, might have been about 71, 72 in a friendly. And one of the Argentinian players said, it was like we were playing 3 different teams. He said, once we got to grips with one formation, then Cruyff was playing centre back, and like you would, but there was a coherence to it. So it all made sense.
Yes, I agree totally. And I think that football, like history, is something that, is like a wheel that at some point everything is revolving, and, something that was good in the 70s, now you can see it in these years. And the common, if you think back from the 70s to now, the common thing in all these years has been always Holland. Thinking about also the late 90s in Spain when Johan Cruyff was there, and basically the style of football Spanish style football all comes from those years in the 70s. This orange clockwork orange, and I think that probably is the trait of the top teams. Don't give too many reference points to the opponents, so it's difficult to play against a team that has this kind of approach on the field. No specific positions, no patterns, but just movements, and this leads to a re-evaluation of the importance of the techniques in the players. So how a player can perform all over the field, no matter the position is playing.
I love that. We were speaking, I was saying to you earlier, I was speaking to John Collins last week, who I love talking to football about. And John was saying very similar to what you were saying, but even when he was playing, he was always looking, the best players look to get the ball in between other players, in space, so you don't get tackled. And, he would have been playing like that when he was playing, and there's an intelligence to that, isn't there? There's an intelligence to your relationship to space.
Exactly. It's about intelligence, but it's more about, it's something more. It's the capacity, it's the ability to live in the context, because football is an ever-changing environment. So, and you sometimes you can think on the field, sometimes you have just to react, and reaction is about perception. So perception of the movements, perception of the space, the colors, the speed, and the best players is what they doing. But I remember in one interview, Pep Guardiola said that when he was a player, Johan Cruyff used to tell him, "Look, Pep, you have to judge your performance according to the number of tackles that you have received. The more the tackles, the worse is your performance. So you have to always find yourself in the situation where you don't get tackles from the opponent. This means, as you said, finding yourself in the right space, finding yourself and receive the ball in the right way to don't get tackled. All these things make, in my opinion, the top players. The players that are they can choose their own pace according to the pressure of the opponent. So they have to know. They know where and when to keep the ball. They know where and when to play one touch. They know where and when don't get the ball, but just move and create space for the others. So that, especially midfielders nowadays, have to have this quality, which is fantastic.
And that brings me to the point, Pablo, like when we're speaking about it, and you'll know as a player, isn't it, there's an incredible amount, as you said it there really eloquently, it's the context of where you're getting the ball and the movement of the game. And something I notice when I'm working with players now, the amount of game information that players are getting early on seems to have increased a lot. So, there's almost like another level of game intelligence coming into it, which is kind of taught to a certain extent. And I suppose my question to you, as a top youth coach, is to what extent do you think you coach this, and to what extent do you take advantage of almost learning from experience as a youth player, and how do you merge that? It's a big question, but
Good question. I think that experience make the players. And when I talk about experience, I mean not just the age, but the time that you have experienced a certain situation. And this leads to my way of coaching, which is based only and exclusively on game-related scenarios. Because I think that if you coach your players, even young players, in a way where they can every day have an experience and facing everyday all the thousand and thousand situations that can occur in the game, they then they become good in anticipation. So they can anticipate the situation. They can foresee what's going on. And this leads to the neuroscience. So mirror neurons, because you know that mirror neurons help you to understand what is going on. What the opponent is going to do, or your teammate is going to do, and you can improve this only by experience. And about intelligence, I think that the next step, the next level for a young player is to become a student of the game, which is something I always say to my players. You have to become students of the game, because it's not enough to play, but you have to try and steal the secrets from top players and see not just what they do on the field, what they do outside, what they think, how they think, the experience, different histories, everything. And the privilege to coach in such a big club like as Roma is that the young players are already, they have so many expectations on their shoulders, and they know they want to make it, and they're very keen to improve in that sense. Of course, as a coach, you don't have to force, you have to show. As always, there is something I always say to my colleagues, or I'm not interested to teach how to climb a tree. I'm more interested to take the players to explore the woods. Which is, I hope it makes sense.
It's totally makes sense, because that, certainly in the areas, again, I work on mentally and emotionally, when you're playing the game, isn't it? And you'll recognize it when you were playing, isn't it? It's that relationship between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, that the unconscious mind can recognize that 5 trees there that are sitting over there. Split second, that reminds me that I tried that pass there and it never worked, and I'll choose this pass, isn't it?
Exactly. So as football is an open skills activity. So, and it's all based on motor skills. And as you know, motor skills are learned by this implicit memory. Is implicit learning. But so it's not enough to explain to the players. They have to experience. Otherwise, they never get this. And this is why I think that top players think and react in the same way. Average players maybe think, but they don't react. Or they react, but they don't think. So the top players are those who can make both. Because there are situations on the field that you have the time and the space to think what you have to do, where you have to move, what's the next move. But sometimes you don't have this time and space. You have just to react. And the best players are able to do both. Then, of course, there are other things that, in my opinion, make difference. Like you said, emotions are. I think no matter the quality of your idea, your game model, but if you are not able to create this connection with the players, everything you can say is a waste of time. Because I think that, but not only with young players, I have experienced in adult football, probably more in adult football than football. And I realized that if you are not able to create this connection with your players, there is nothing you can do to convince them for that you are a good coach. You have to show that you care of them. But this is something I learned also from talking to you and talking to and having this. So it's part of my nature. But then when you talk about this with the top professional, then you have the confirmation every day.
And I think that's just such a great point, isn't it? And certainly in all the coach education I do and I'm involved in, that the power of the relationship between the player and the coach and the strength of that is what allows not just information to go two ways and come and go. But there's something else that happens, isn't it? It's the intangible team spirit come out of it. And as you mentioned, great, the mirror neurons, how sometimes you can go in a dressing room and if you're not with that team, you get a feeling of it.
Yeah. Once you enter the changing room, you can see straight away what's going on in the train. And this comes by empathy with the players. This empathy, I think, is the key to create connection with the players. I think it doesn't mean to become friends of the players. No. You don't have to be friends. You have to be everything. I mean, you have to change. So, and changing is not being yourself. Is to know that with someone you have to be more father. Someone else you have to be brother, tutor, coach, or maybe with the same player you have to be different in different moments according to his mood. Or so this comes from respect and think that before the player there is a person. So a player is a person who plays football.
Yeah. I would agree with that totally, Vav. And that's that thing about, it's the person in front of you, then the player. And also, I use that word, and you've used it there for coaches, that word empathy. Because sometimes I'll notice that as you get older, it can be quite easy to forget what it's like to be fearful of doing something. So you almost take it for granted, that because you've done it that long. And then sometimes it's more difficult to have empathy with something, because for a young player that perhaps is a little bit nervous at trying the new way. And you'll hear that when people say, I can't understand why he doesn't do X. Because maybe he's just a little bit fearful and he's coming out of the comfort zone. Yeah. So I think that empathy is a great one.
Yeah, but with young players, I think that in every aspect of your life, but especially for me, that I coach young players and they are 16, because under 17, it means that when I get the group, they are 16. So they're adolescents, so they're young men. Yeah. And the way I want them to play is a way that has many targets, but one target, which is the most important in my opinion, is to make sure they play without fear.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I can't blame the mistakes, especially at the beginning. Otherwise, there is no sense. They can't get the point. So you ask me, I think a player can think, Coach, you are asking me to play in a risky way, to play with confidence. If I make a mistake, you blame me, you stick me. So I think, again, empathy and relationships can make the difference. Especially if you have the privilege, like myself, I have to say I'm lucky to have players that are good already. They have quality, they have talent. And if I don't let them express their talent, I'm not doing my job properly.
That's brilliant, Fab. Because I think that relationship, we hear it a lot with people saying, oh, go and play fearlessly or just be yourself. And of course, as a coach, it's only the coach and the people around them that can create the environment, because it's a paradox, isn't it? Especially if they want it that bad. Because the pressure sometimes is, I'm not wanting to make a mistake for myself. And
so they're ready. They go already on the field with this pressure. But as a coach, and of course the coaching staff as well, because the coaching staff have to do and to think the same way. Once the players, even not only because I can see sometimes coaches that say, no problem to the players, no problem, don't be afraid to make mistakes in the session. So sometimes you think and you listen, and I hear a lot of times a coach saying, don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's just a training session. It's not a problem if we concede. It's not enough. You should do this, and you should say this to the players in the game, in the real game. Otherwise, they can think, okay, it's a session. I'm not afraid to make mistakes. But if I do this mistake during the game, you stick me and you blame me. No, I have to be able and to be strong, so strong to say to a player in a game, don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's not important. Just keep going. And if there is one thing I'm proud of, I don't have problems, because anyone can watch some games of my teams in the internet. The players play without fear, and this is the best achievement I got as a coach.
Great. I think I watched last week a film, one of the film biographies of Sir Bobby Robson, and there's a great little clip where he speaks about going to the World Cup with Paul Gascoigne, and Paul Gascoigne afterwards said these very words that you're saying. That he said, he made me feel loved. He made me feel loved, and I knew I could just express myself. He says there was no fear on it.
I think is the key of any. So whatever book you can read about leadership, there is always the one point. So the good leader, the best leaders look after the people. So people is not afraid to make mistakes. And I have to say, I worked with someone who ruled by fear. And even if you can get the results sometimes, even in that way, but still you think that it doesn't last. It won't last too long. So, and this is what I always try to do with the adults, with the boys, by being myself. And then, of course, it's not enough. I think that first you have to be competent. You have to have knowledge, and you have to be sure about what you offer to your players. So you have to have belief, because if you don't believe in what you do and what you say to the players spot, they can get you straight away. They catch you. So it's all about study and improving. But so you have to look after every single detail, and if it's part of your nature, is even better. So I remember when I started to coach in 2003, I was a coach in a youth academy, local club, but I remember I always tried to study, to improve myself, to get better every day. So it's always been part of my nature, and this is why I came to Scotland. I wanted to and I struggled, because you know how difficult it can be to stay 3 days and listening to Scottish people talking and joking, and then you said to yourself, what is he doing? What is he saying now? But then you get the point, and then you ask for help as well to your mates, but this comes from your empathy.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think you've said a few brilliant points there just at the end, that, and you hear that, sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, just be confident. But confidence is nothing without the competency, isn't it? You have to be good at what you do. That's and also I loved, and I have to, you're a great example of it, and all the other coaches I've come across that really are going to study or work. You have to have a curiosity about the game, don't you? You have to be curious about the game and yourself and what else is there.
Yeah, curiosity is another key point. I give you an example. Last week I made one of these webinars in the United States.
Yeah.
And after this webinar, I was happy because I had many emails or messages from coaches who attended the webinar, and they start to ask questions. And at some point, there are 2 or 3 that gave me something to reflect on.
Yeah.
And then from that point that a coach from Chicago sent me, and then he sent me a note from a book, and then I went to try and find the book. So I think this is curiosity and will to improve every single detail, because if you want to work at the top, you have to work on the details. That is, in my opinion, not a secret, but now I'm working in the professional football since 9 years. And I never been a top player. I never been a professional player. But what I achieved in my career is because I always wanted to know more. I was always wanted to experience. I always want to always to improve and get the chances. Don't wait for the chances to come, but always go and get it.
Go and get it. And I love that, almost just to finish off with what you said there, because I was smiling because that's what I do so much is I love reading. So I'll read a book and it might be about philosophy or business leadership or football, and I'll see a quote and then I'll see, I wonder who said that. And then I'll go and look at their books or whatever they've done, and they take me on a trail. And it's just like what you said about football, isn't it? Is I wonder why Pep plays the game he plays. And then you can go back. I wonder where that came from. You can go back. And that, I think, for me personally, and I'm sure it might be the same for yourself, that allows you to kind of build your own philosophy on top of that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. I think that no one can copy other people, other coaches, but then you can draw from them and build your own philosophy. And then you get the point. I mean, every one of us as a coach, I think that build his own philosophy according to his experience as a player, as a person. I was a player who always wanted to be involved in the game, always wanted to have the ball. I liked when I was playing for teams that they were dominating on the field, always get the ball, always move it. So, of course, then as a player, I like that style. And then as a coach, I like to see my team playing that style. Maybe other coaches have a different experience in their past, and then they want their team to play differently. And then it's about what you have done in your life. What I was before to become a professional coach, I was a bookseller. I used to sell books, so I always read books. So even now, when I want to make a gift to my players, I make books. So I give books to them because I want them to probably to know more about myself by reading a book, because I like the book. So all the things I think that make your own
philosophy. I think I love that, Bob. I remembered you were a bookseller and loved books, and I might have mentioned this to you before. And I like to take things from different areas as well. And I remember watching a documentary on Nick Cave, the songwriter, and someone asked him, how are you so prolific in writing songs? And what he said was, I don't care where the first sentence takes me. I don't care how good this first sentence is. It's where the first sentence takes me. And I can use that.
Yeah, you're right. Even if I think that Nick Cave, when he was young, it wasn't the first sentence who led him, but maybe something he got in his. He used to take drugs, but anyway, I love it. I love Nick Cave. I have all his music. I love him as a songwriter. But you have to start and explore your
and it was that thing when I heard him saying that, I thought about how can I interpret that in football, and I thought how I can interpret that in football is it's where it's not so much where you start, it's where that first pass takes you. Like you were saying about picking up the ball, it's don't be scared to get on the ball and make one putt, because it never knows where you can take you. And so I think for us all, and that's what I'm hearing you're saying as well, is we can take inspiration from many different places. And I think that takes confidence as well as a coach or as a player.
Yeah, and you can get inspiration not only from other coaches, but maybe from a quote of a book or a song, whatever can give you can light the sparkle of something new, a new direction, maybe sometimes it's good to take a new pathway and then realize that it's not for you. It wasn't for you, and then you can come back. So if you never make a step forward, you always be in the same place. This is what I tried to do in my coaching career, and I don't know if it has been a good career or a worst or a bad career or average. I don't know, but at least is what I want to do in my life, and I'm doing it. So I'm more than happy.
Brilliant. And I know I've seen you've been doing quite a lot of webinars around your philosophy and your game model. If people want to go and find out a little bit more about your philosophy or how you like to play the game, where could they get more information about that, Fab? How could they get in contact with you?
With me, anyone can get my email, and then anyone can get I have a YouTube channel where I put videos of my games, some clips of my training sessions, and all these videos I made it for these webinars I took around, and then there are a recording of these webinars in English, of course. The two I made in English, but I'm more than happy to talk about methodology and coaching with whoever wants to do it. If you wish to give my contact details, I'm more than pleased to do that.
Brilliant. And I know how generous you are with your time and your thinking as well. And I've really enjoyed our conversation. And I hope we can I've just had my espresso, so I hope we can have an espresso in person soon, Fab.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully in the future.
Okay. Thanks again, Fab.
Thanks, Don.